Oh, Herbert's 100 harem. It's not projecting, it's receiving. Even now it's receiving, Dr. Grace says as he peers over the table. His modification to incorporate human DNA into himself has eventually ended in him standing nearly twice as tall as a normal Kobe, but he's still somewhat short by human standards. Even average men have a head on him, if not head and shoulders. Receiving what? An adept from the council asks. The woman's primary duty was defense and retaliation for anything happening to the council. That's the question. Now we can make some reasonable assumptions. The strange refinement method to produce more blood metal requires animalistic fear. A level of it so deep that even with the physically different brain structure of humans, it still comes across flawlessly. Ivan notes. Now, with my own specialty, I can assure you the amniotic fluid is effective, and like all such fluids used for cloning, can transfer axiom. In fact, it encourages it, and more high-end cloning facilities will try to copy emotional resonance. That's what this fluid is doing as well. It's just really dirty for that, though. Is that why it's not often used? Yes, the extremely over-the-top display of wealth and grandeur cloned meats make use of these techniques. And of course, since it's to be eaten, it needs a clean fluid. So this yellow cloning fluid? Not fit for purpose, or at least not fit for the more common purpose of feeding someone a steak tasting of joy and love without harming an animal. So that's what the extremely expensive cloning techniques are doing. That's right, the balance is very hard to maintain. And unless you're getting paid a borderline obscene amount of money for the time, it's just not worth it. It's intensive, exhaustive, and a single mistake can ruin things, especially if a customer has really strange tastes. What happened? Do you know how hard it is to make even a single, small cube of meat that has, and I quote, suffered a deep heartbreak but since healed? Do you have any idea how absurd that is to formulate within a tank? It's so stupidly precise, finicky, and difficult that despite it being one of the largest sums of money I've seen in my life, I damn near quit, Ivan grouches. Anything you want off your chest? No. It's just really damn annoying, and I don't like thinking about it. When your meal requires greater degrees of precision than an organ transplant, there's a problem, Ivan says in annoyance. But I digress. We're off topic. The yellow fluid transfers axiom signals in a person's presence that correlate to emotions. Otherwise, it works much the same way, isolating the metal from outside influences and providing the resources it needs to grow. And based on how it reacts, we know that there's further effects. We also know it feeds off of fear, if not other emotions. The position of these receivers means that they're taking advantage of the unfortunate situations of the bottom 10 of the spires at the least, potentially making it worse as well, Ivan states. No, you're powerful, but you don't know the tricks I do, Dr. Grace. This are receptive only, often used to gauge and understand a person's axiom presence. I've used the technique it replicates in bodyguard work and intercepted more than one assassination attempt just by picking up a spike of aggression. It has some kind of translation effect, doesn't it? Otherwise, you have to memorize the personal flows and texture of a person's axiom presence to decipher it. There are some very general patterns. What this looks for is when things are shifting within certain tolerances. Grief weighs things down, rage boils and burns. Joy and love both float, so there's been some fun misinterpretations. But fear is jagged and prone to jumping. That's what this thing is picking up, fear. Particularly the jumps, the sudden sting. Okay, so this receives the axiom wavelength of fear. Cool. I need more time with the metal and fluid to figure out why them together, and a burst of energy causes axiom to induce fear, Ivan says, and the adept pauses, gives him a good long look, and then raises an eyebrow. How did someone learn to use axiom as powerfully as you and not know these things? She asks him. Basically, torture and treachery, courtesy of a clone of mine, now thankfully departed. What am I missing? He asks. Oh, this is hard to explain. It's something that's more felt than spoken of, but I can best describe it similar to a magnet. The way to force emotion is to repel or attract. This is using a fear-attracting technique, basically. Or rather, there's something inherent to the metal that causes fear to be drawn in, and since we feel fearful of the metal at a very base level, it draws it in. So perhaps we should rename it into terror alloy or something, Ivan notes. Let's not give the overdramatic any ideas here. Blood metal works just fine, the adept says. So anyways, the metal is clearly trying to absorb fear-based axiom frequencies, and the fluid expands on it and provides material for it to grow as it does so. They're also using the metal to absorb it, basically copying the frequency using the protein at the center as the small wires of blood metal absorb the fear. If there's anything lost in it, then it would explain why that small piece I had grew so much with just a single small burst. It must be more effective at the source, but without the fluid to actually give it the material it needs to grow, it's unable to actually grow. Ivan muses. Is anyone else disturbed by the fact we have a metal that's literally hungry for fear on our hands? The adept states. Lady, we moved past disturbing, went into surreal, and now are looping right around back to banal, Ivan says cheekily. Besides, I've seen worse. The more you mention your history, the less and the more I want to know. Pretty normal until the Albrecht incident, and then the Undaunted pulled me out of that mess, so now I work for them, Yvonne says, and she considers, before shrugging. Right, anyways, we've established that these devices are receivers, receiving the fear of the lower levels. I suppose we should be thankful it's just fear and not pain or rage or hatred, the adept remarks. Let's not tempt fate. We don't want to find a batch of that I am not going to elaborate on this dark idea because I do not want to tempt fate. I didn't take you for the superstitious type, the adept says, and he slowly turns to her and gives her an even look. All right, point taken. You're kidding me, Herbert says as he gets the report from one of his streams. No, sir, the man piloting the cuted-up death robot replies. I'm almost disappointed. Sorry, boss. Not everything is a massive tangled conspiracy. The pallet for repair and building materials is right next to the storage for the blood metal, and 4 years ago the AI controlling this noted that the flooring was legally at the edge of requiring replacement, so it ordered the mechanics to get to it. They activated a basic construction drone that took the metal, used it for the paneling, and no one noticed what was actually going on. Okay, so the blood metal flooring was due to an overabundance, and no one picking the stuff up or telling the underlings that the weird metal is actually valuable. Got it. Even if it's like someone confusing an axiom ride finish for chrome or a sheet of gold for brass or something, it makes a lot more sense when you consider that this investigation has likely doubled or tripled the amount of people across the entire galaxy who have seen blood metal and can actually identify the stuff. The stream on the other end notes, and Herbert nods. Right, good point. Still, it's a strange bit of oversight. What about those drones? The captured drones have been scanned up and down. They're very basic, unable to even really recognize different people. Only that there may be people in their work area, in which case they will start to make a loud, obnoxious sound and flash their lights until people leave to let them work. Wait, isn't that a very old deterrent method? It is, which dates the drones to using the design philosophies of about 200 years ago, or more likely bargain bin level construction drones 50 years ago. These are very simple machines, but with 3 in total we have a lot of repair and construction functionality. They have the blueprints of the buildings involved, the physical structure of them, the portal, and each other. They're indicated to use materials in one of several storage areas, and the blood metal overflowed into the primary construction material storage. In a short while, this would have continued until we had blood metal walls, ceilings, roofs, and drones. They're actually due for an auto repair within the month. And since there's so much usable metal in the primary construction material storage, the computer monitoring it hasn't sent out a request for more. Exactly. It goes by weight. The alert is in the scale below. It actually sent out an order for more Kutha to act as power sources and the such 2 days ago. It arrived during our investigations, the agent says, and Herbert nods. All right, get me the names of the companies the administration AI behind these buildings contacts. Time to give our computer experts something more to do. What do you mean? We find the pattern that this company used and find out if ever there was any other accounts in the pattern. Or more likely, right, the owner of the mess is likely to build this little group up first and then automate it, the agent says, and Herbert smiles. That's right. Get us that info and we can get ourselves on the trail proper, Herbert says. Get your handler to pass it directly to the main investigative branch. They're working with our allies on this. I want every eye we have on this in case the pattern requires a more exotic or unusual mind to actually figure it out. This situation is already too unusual to be dealt with by one group, Herbert insists. Right, sir, we're both on it, the stream's handler says, and he nods before the call turns off. Herbert then turns to the crowd he had requested silence from for the conversation. Now, did everyone get that? It'll be filed into proper reports soon, but I want opinions, insights, and anything you think will help with this, beyond what I've already ordered. There is a quick and furious debate around the room, and then after a bit, a Nagasha woman plops herself over and rests on her elbows. She's unusually large, so she towers above him as she smiles down. Yes? What are your rules of engagement? Capture if reasonably possible, kill in defense of self, squad, and civilians. Dissemble, stall, and obfuscate when spoken to by unknown or non-allied parties. He says, and she nods. Good. What about damage? Considering that falling rubble can and will cause fatalities if we start just smashing buildings, it's highly discouraged. But preventing collateral is not more important than preserving lives, he says. Very good. And the little soldiers you have joining all the groups are recording everything, right? And they have constant contact with a dedicated researcher, hacker, and communications officer. Herbert clarifies, and she nods. Perfect. That was my concern. She says, slithering away, and briefly Herbert wonders if sitting directly inside one of the windowsills was a mistake. It lifted him off the ground and made him look a touch majestic with Centris slowly rotating behind him. But some people seem to think of it as an invitation. Still, he had done his part for now and needed to wait on the results of other people digging. After that, more decisions. And in the meantime, keep this herd of cats from infighting. So, a new voice says as a Muffus woman who's groomed her wool to resemble a swimsuit and wearing only a pair of pants slips in next to him. Her ID and rank insignia are hanging off her horns alongside her jewelry. We need to talk about adept support. A lot of girls are worried. They're not in standard forces and there's not a lot of time if the axiom really gets moving. The streams all have beacons they can activate to turn them into the target for a reinforcement teleport. We may only have a few high-powered adepts, but all of them are on standby and just waiting to jump in. What kind of adepts? Arumenta, enhancement, technomancy. We have about 5 at the standby. Our best one affects probability. We have an annihilation adept and 3 transfiguration adepts. Probability? She pushes. He can affect the odds of things, make certainties impossible and impossibilities certain. Does that include random misfortune? Not so random with him around. Terrifying, as much as an annihilation adept or transfiguration adepts. How did you train up that kind power in less than a year? Tricks were figured out and they work as powerful teaching tools. Well, damn, you're scary, little human, she says before standing up. Good luck. Luck, I make my own luck, he notes.